noches, Micronesia. My name is Troy Torres. Welcome to our studios here at Candid News Group in Agutnia, Guam. Sorry, Agania, Hagutnia. I grew up in the day when it was Agania. I think my grandma and grandpa always knew it as Agania, and then like the legislature changed it to Hagutnia, and it's impossible spelling that because you have to do the special N character. Anyway, welcome. How was everyone's Sunday? I hope everyone did well. It was another hot as fuck day. And if I look like I stink, it's because it's true. This is my gym clothes. Anyway, just a little frisky tonight because, well, we do have some hard news, but on the weekends we like to play around a little. So before we get to any of the hard news, we did get one of our viewers, oh, sorry, by the way, before we go any further, if you could just share at the bottom of the screen, share this video to your timeline and to your profile, and also to the groups that you're in. That has been like a very helpful thing for us, and it's caused our audience to grow significantly. So thank you very much for doing that and for supporting us in that way. We really do appreciate it here at Candid. Before we get into the hard news, we do want to follow up on someone who I like to make fun of a lot, simply because she's a bitch. And it's June Perez. We did get from June Perez from Guam Memorial Hospital. We did get, someone sent us a picture of her dog or her puppy, and it was the cutest puppy ever. Let's put that up on the screen. Fuck. That was a wasted setup. Hold on. Let me. Hold on, I can't let this go. Let me get this picture over to my screen. I want people to see what this puppy looks like. It's a cute puppy. Hold on. While we're waiting for all that, I'm single now. But I'm not mingling because I'm too busy for that shit. Where's this fucking picture? Hold on, okay? Fuck. Oh, wait, it's in my email. Hold on, just wait for it, okay, because it's good. It's good, I promise. Can we go to my screen now? It even looks like her. We put a bell around June. To our viewer who sent that, hashtag savage, hashtag Mariana's dirty laundry, and I love you. Oh man, okay. All right, on to the hard news. So, on the subject of, we're going to continue from last night's subject on Dr. Michael Ellert, the rapist who was convicted of criminal sexual conduct by a jury in 2017, specifically over the CSC of a couple of female victims of his. But over the course of his career, he was found, well, he's been accused of, by several people, several incidents of criminal sexual conduct. It all happens at his house where he has parties and he invites mostly females to come over. There, in the case filings, the one or two, I can't remember, of the students claimed that he got them drunk. He may have drugged their drinks, and that's how he was able to take advantage of them. A couple of them it was by force. There was some violence, etc. Scumbag extraordinaire, convicted by a jury and taught the University of Guam a lesson about how to be a university that cares about its students. So by the end of the Ellert case, there were several people within the university who were found to have stood up for these students and had said something. Last night I incorrectly named Dr. Kate Moots as part of the cabal. That she was the president of the Faculty Senate, but as a matter of fact, she was helpful in the case against Ellert. So just because she was the president of the Faculty Senate didn't mean that she was part of the group like Dr. Don Rubenstein, Dr. Don Platt, Dr. James Selman, Dr. Vivian Dames, who went after whistleblowers in that case or covered up for Ellert. She was in fact repulsed by what Dr. Ellert did. Then there were others who, well, let me read you first what Dr. Ron McNinch sent to senators and some stakeholders some 9 hours ago, which provides even more information about what happened in the Ellert case. Dear senators and stakeholders, in the last week, 3 victims in the University of Guam sex abuse case spoke out about concerns they have. We can go to my screen so people can read along if they want. They also asked that the Attorney General discuss their concerns with them, and I hope this request will be honored. These concerns are very important. I would like to suggest the governor appoint a special inspector general or a qualified blue ribbon commission to look into related concerns involving all students. An outcome of this effort should aim to improve and strengthen policy or laws to protect our students in the learning process. The message should be clear that any teacher who abuses a student under their care will be fired and barred from the teaching profession. This should also include students over 18 in higher education settings. In 1997 to 1998, I was asked to assist with a specific pattern of student abuse by the university, and I worked with the AG's office at the time to this end. Between 1998 and 2019, I made a number of efforts to address these kinds of concerns both within the university and with various law enforcement agencies. Just as a side note, Dr. McNinch is very well connected to several law enforcement agencies, to include very much the federal government's law enforcement agencies. The university was well aware of this, and it was documented in 2012. I also discussed these concerns openly at UOG in 2012. In 2015, the university asked the Attorney General to investigate me related to these efforts, claiming that UOG did not have problems. I believe this was done as a faculty union organized to create a chilling effect at UOG, which it did. A proper investigation and inquiry with full document and detail the scope of these concerns. For example, concerns about students being coerced to have sexual relations with certain professors to receive passing grades. This is the part where you as parents may want to pay attention, because this, and students over at the university and at the colleges, because this is where it's fucked, like just fucked up. This was the 1997 to 1998 concern, and I also documented this in 2012 in internal memos to the UOG. Note, Michael Ellert was hired by UOG after 1998, but this is not a single person issue. A student who made A's to B's in high school and college should not fail a basic psychology class because they refused to have sex with their professor. It is very easy to audit this and identify the victims. These students should have their academic records corrected and receive a refund along with an apology. I've been told some students even appealed these failing grades and their concerns were not believed. Why wasn't this looked at more closely when the complaints were made? I'll read the rest of this, but first I want to stop on this issue. What was happening with Dr. Ellert and apparently with other professors at the University of Guam is that professors would hit on students, and if those students did not bite back, because the professors are just fucking ugly, they're ugly, all right? Like College of Liberal Arts and Social Sciences professors, except for like a couple of them, are really ugly. Right? There's just no way around that. You know, I may be fat, all right? But I can fix that. It gets harder to do over the years. I can fix that. But like when you are F-U-G-L-Y, you ain't got no alibi. There ain't nothing you can do, okay? But these professors, they're fixed to that because they need to get their fix down there, is to fail students who refuse their advances, and then to give A's or B's or passing grades or whatever to students who they favor because those students are performing sexual favors for them. It is a sick and disgusting thing that happens at the College of Liberal Arts and Social Sciences, and that's why Dr. Lynch is calling this shit out. And this is in an email sent to senators and other stakeholders in the community just 9 hours ago. I'll continue. Some students complained and protested having to attend certain off-campus parties as a part of their class experience. In 2015, I interviewed a number of students and former students, and they all retold a specific pattern of bad behaviors. How did this go on for so long? While serving on the Promotion and Tenure Committee in 2003 to 2006, I had heard about some of these concerns. Why didn't administrators address these concerns? Where did the process fail? So, this had been happening for a number of years. So you would think that it would be reported. Well, the Faculty Senate compiled some report that they did in the aftermath of the Ellert thing, or was it the Faculty Union? One of those two corrupt bodies. One of them prepared a report, and they claimed that in over a 20-year period, there had only been one complaint of sexual assault in the University of Guam, which is bullshit. They have a student population that averaged over the past 20 years around 3,500. They currently have a student population of 4,000. There's no way there was only one complaint of sexual abuse. None. You should, on average, have 20 to 30 per year, substantiated or not. There should have been at least 20 to 30 of these complaints in a normal setting like that. And they said only one. So what was happening was that, well, the administrators were covering it up. And in pictures that we're showing you of the university, you'll see how this is done. It's because the people who are in charge, they hang out with each other. They're bosom buddies. They just love each other's company. And they happen to be the people who retain all of the power at the University of Guam. It's been going on for years. And Dr. Lynch is calling it out. Following the Ellert case and the upgraded policy, the university has still had to address faculty pressuring students for sexual relations for grades. I believe, the quitting smoking thing failed. I believe that the persons engaged in this sort of conduct should be prosecuted. Also, one victim testified at the Ellert trial that she had been raped. While the statute of limitations may have expired, I believe Ellert might be prosecuted for this under a theory of public employee misconduct. You are right, Dr. Lynch. I think the AG has until September 2019 to charge him with this. Yep, official misconduct. The Guam Code is below regarding sexual assault. I believe a professor is coercing students if they engage in grade-related or power-related actions. So from Title IX Guam Code annotated subsection 25.10 under definitions as used in this chapter, force or coercion includes but is not limited to any of the following circumstances, and then he pulls out subsection C, which says when the actor coerces the victim to submit by threatening to retaliate in the future against the victim or any other person, and the victim believes that the actor has the ability to execute this threat. As used in this subsection, to retaliate includes threats of physical punishment, kidnapping, or extortion. And then from subsection 7, personal injury means bodily injury, disfigurement, mental anguish, chronic pain, pregnancy, disease, or loss or impairment of a sexual or reproductive organ. I really don't understand the need for sexual assault. It baffles me, you know? Like when I want to have sex with a person, it normally starts with, hey, you want to fuck? And then normally it happens consensually and happily, if I may add. There's no like power brokering. There's no like, how do I say this? I was gonna say there's no domination, but that's like, there's no like forcible domination, you know? There's just fun. But then there's all these sickos, you know, who for some reason or another want to use sex as this power toy. I don't know. I believe Michael Ellert deceived UOG officials in the investigation in March 2015. He was allowed to keep his job at full pay until October 2017. I believe that this should be prosecuted, and the government of Guam should make him repay the ill-gotten gains he received from this deception. Anyone knowingly assisting him in this process of deception should be likewise investigated and prosecuted. Hear, hear. Title IX, Guam Code Annotated Subsection 43.35, theft by deception, defined under A person is guilty of theft if he intentionally obtains property of another by deception. A person deceives if he intentionally prevents another from acquiring information which would affect his judgment of a transaction or fails to correct a false impression with the deceiver previously created or reinforced, or which the deceiver knows to be influencing another to whom he stands in a fiduciary or confidential relationship. Boy, if ICE were legal, lots of people would be guilty of theft by deception. It's like that's like a thing, you know, like. I believe that the sex offender registry law should be updated and persons who are convicted of sexual assault should be placed on the registry even if an appeal is pending. According to the court, over 100 letters were written for Ellert on his behalf. I asked the judiciary to let me examine these letters. I wanted to know who supported Ellert. This request was denied. The Guam legislature should allow the public and especially victims access to these letters. Yes. I want to be able to avoid these people. I also want to know where these supporters' hearts and priorities are. Good job, Dr. McNinch. I want to mention a few persons at UOG who have openly assisted students in these types of cases. Dr. Anita Enriquez, the senior vice president, who took these concerns seriously from the very beginning and acted in an affirmative way. Dr. Lisa Natividad spoke openly to the faculty about how one of her students was raped by Ellert. This took courage. Dr. Annette Santos, the Dean of the School of Business and Public Administration, and Dr. Kate Moots from the Faculty Senate worked to improve the UOG policy in this area. They did good work. Dr. Issa Bowman was a very junior faculty member who spoke up early on these concerns. I fear she was retaliated against by certain professors last year. This is true. In March or April 2015, I contacted officials at GPD about the Ellert case. By May 2015, I spoke directly to administrators on my concerns. Just a little backstory here, because I was on the ground at Adelup. No, actually I wasn't. I had just gotten back to Adelup in May of 2015, and Dr. McNinch called me up and said that he was having problems getting people at the Guam Police Department to answer or to follow up with these cases. And of course, the reason he was having problems was because that dipshit, dumb fuck, J.I. Cruz was the chief of police. He was just a dumb fuck. I also sought advice and counsel from a number of people who helped me. I suspected that I would be retaliated against once this became public. Speaker B.J. Cruz was very helpful. Senator and now Speaker Barnes was very helpful. Senator Respicio also helped a lot. I also discussed my concerns with Josh Tenorio, who was at the Guam Judiciary at the time. Governor Calvo was very helpful, and Oya and Troy at his office worked also to help me. Oya is a bitch, Dr. McNinch, just FYI. To be frank, I was concerned UOG was about to fire me for reporting these concerns. I have also felt the University of Guam Board of Regents were too detached and not attentive to these serious concerns at the time. That is a euphemism, to put it quite mildly. I've changed my views somewhat since that time, but it still is a concern. The laws of Guam and federal laws fully apply to UOG. Regents need to meet more than once every 3 months when these kinds of concerns arise. I would like to ask the Guam legislature to hold public hearings to review these concerns. In effect, the legislature has an inspector general function using its oversight process. This came to light for the public in 2015 when Gaynor Delano, she's awesome, who was at the PDN, they suck, and now at the Guam Post, they're good except for Kevin Kerrigan, he really sucks, wrote a very good story about this case. I was not the source of this story. I wanted the case prosecuted, but I think I was blamed for it and retaliated against for it. Sincerely, Ron McNinch. Very interesting stuff. So, I believe this might be the first time that information on this whole sex for grades thing is coming about. But it's happening if it's happening at the college level, who says it ain't happening at the high school level or even the middle school level, where kids are even more impressionable, where, because parents might be thinking that, you know, it wouldn't happen to their kids because they're A honor roll kids, they're smart kids or whatever. But if you think about it, like I was an A honor roll kid, you know, and one of the reasons that I never wanted to say anything about my teacher raping me was because I didn't want to lose my A. You know, I was focused. I was focused on those grades. Like I was gonna get those grades. And it's not like there was an exchange, like we'll have pedophile sex and you know you give me an A. It wasn't like that. It was fear that I'd get an F, fear that I wouldn't make it into National Junior Honor Society, fear that I would be kicked off of the production crew for the pedophile productions that St. Anthony's School would put on. So this is the first time that we're hearing about this publicly, I believe, and Dr. Ron McNinch is basically putting the University of Guam on full blast to the senators and saying, senators, since we do not have an Office of the Inspector General locally appointed yet by the administration, then since you guys have oversight powers, please hold a series of hearings to get to the bottom of this and to investigate this matter because it's not done. No, Siri.
Okay.
Siri.
I found this on the web for a series of hearings to get to the bottom of the sentence best to get this matter because it's not done. Check it out.
Fuck you, Siri. Fuck you, Siri.
I don't know how to respond to that.
Then go fuck yourself. Siri fucks me up sometimes making phone calls and shit when I'm talking shit about the people I'm making phone calls about, or that Siri's calling. So that's what we have tonight for the Ellert case. Now let's move our attention to the AJ Belahaja case. So I asked the Guam Police Department a few days ago a series of questions regarding AJ Belahaja, including whether he's been placed on administrative leave or whether he has been removed from his duties at the Criminal Investigation Division and given administrative work to do so that he's away from the public, away from kids, et cetera, right? So that he doesn't have power over people. We finally got a response back from Sergeant Paul Tupau earlier tonight who said that he received our questions and he would get back to us about this tomorrow morning because, you know, it is the weekend. Meanwhile, we also sent Sergeant Paul Tupau a very specific question about how people who have a criminal complaint to lodge against AJ Belahaja or anybody else, how they can go about making that criminal complaint if they live off island. So how to file a criminal complaint if you live on Guam is quite simple. Well, it's a process, but the instructions are simple. You just walk into any police precinct or to the office of the Chief of Police or Internal Affairs to file a criminal complaint, especially if it's a criminal complaint against a police officer. And they make the Chief of Police Office or the Office of Internal Affairs available to the public, especially when it's about a police officer, because the Guam Police Department understands that you may not feel safe going to a police precinct in a case like that. So that's what you would have to do, right? And to make a criminal complaint, either the officer will interview you and write down your complaint, or you can write one up. And so if you have a criminal complaint to make against somebody who has, especially somebody who has attacked you, tried to take advantage of you sexually or whatever, because this is among the things that Candid exists for, aside from the fight against corruption, which blends very well into this whole CSC thing, is the fight against sexual assault, sexual abuse. It's something that's very close to our hearts, very dear to our hearts, and that we want to stamp out on this island. So We asked the Guam Police Department how a police complaint or a criminal complaint can be lodged if someone is not able to go into a precinct or the chief of police office because they don't live here, but the crime happened here. We're waiting for that answer, and as soon as we get that answer, we're going to let our sources know, because as we understand it, there's at least one source who wants to file a criminal complaint in this case. And once that happens, there will be a criminal investigation lodged alongside an administrative investigation that already is happening against police officer AJ Balahaja, ordered by the chief of police to happen ever since we broke this story. And so that's the update I wanted to give you on that. And the last thing that we have tonight, and we'll have stuff, we have some content for after this last major story, so stick with us. But the last major story we have is on the Asher Dean Lebowski case. Before I present you with the new information, why don't we get an update, or why don't we take a look back at one of the interviews that we had with Asher Dean Lebowski's father, David Lebowski, to give some insight into what this story is in case you haven't followed it.
When he was, we're talking about Guam Memorial Hospital. He was admitted to Guam Memorial Hospital on the morning of the 30th. He came into the ER, and in the ER he saw the staff at the ER. They did everything they're supposed to do. They didn't put him into ICU, which they should have. But anyways, then they admitted him to a room. I think it was about 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and maybe at 7 p.m. Dr. Garrido, the pediatrician, came in for about 10 minutes, at the most, maybe 12 minutes. And he told me that it looks like my son has pneumonia, and also there might be something else going on, but it wasn't clear. But I'm talking about pneumonia.
And they never told you at this point that he was going to septic shock?
They never said anything about how serious his condition was. A matter of fact, from the very beginning, I knew he was sick, but I was never led to believe, told by anyone, that he was dying. I had no idea what was going on, except that he had pneumonia. Now, pneumonia, he's in the hospital, I think he's going to be okay, and so forth, and something else is going on, and they're going to take care. They're going to take care. And also at that time, I didn't realize that they never did a virus culture. He had a virus, because they did an X-ray in the ER, and they said he has a virus, and they said it looks like pneumonia, but they never cultured it. And from what I understand later on, hospitals are supposed to culture a virus because they want to know what they're treating and what they're dealing with, and there's public health issues that might go along with it, which became more prevalent later on. So maybe at 7 p.m., I don't know the exact time, 7 to 7:15, Dr. Garrido, my son passed away 12 hours later, about 7 a.m. in the morning, and no one, many nurses, no doctor that I know of ever, and I was holding my son all night. I'm in bed with him all night holding. It was my job to hold the respirator on his face. And I said to them, "You're in the pediatric ward. Don't you have a way to hold the respirator on?" He kept fighting and taking it off. I said, "Isn't there some other way?" I don't know anything about these things. I'm not a doctor. No, so just help us and you just hold the respirator. So all night I held his respirator in place, and he keeps pulling it off, and he's arguing with me. Doesn't want the respirator. He's 5. Doesn't want the respirator on his face. And no doctor came into the room to look at him at all the whole night. He passed around 7 a.m. in the morning. I don't remember the exact hour, about 12 hours after Dr. Garrido came in. And at that time, about 8 doctors come running in. Dr. Garrido, Sormento, people in the ER, and some other doctors, I don't remember their names, all come running in to try to revive him and giving condolences. And I'm thinking to myself, where were you all night? First of all, I didn't know my son was dying. I have no idea I have no idea.
Were there no alerts that went off?
Yeah. For me, there was some alerts. The first alert is that he had blood coming from his nose, and I said to the nurses, I said, "What's this? What's this?" And she said, "Well, sometimes the respirator will dry out the nose, and this is common for blood to come up." So I bought into that, and he's
Doctor.
no, doctor. The nurse told me that. No doctor. And then the nurse told me also that they were thinking about his oxygen level was at, if I remember, it was like 88%. And it's supposed to be up over 90, like 92 or 93 or something. So that's why we have to keep the respirator on and so forth and so on. And maybe 2 o'clock or 3 o'clock in the morning, they told me that we have to move, we're thinking about moving him into ICU. Look at, no doctor came in the room. They might be looking at the records that the nurses are taking out, but no doctor came in that room. I was with my son all night. No doctors. And that's why I'm thinking he's not that sick. I'm buying into the whole concept of what my observations are. My observations are he's got blood. He says because of this. His face also didn't look right to me. It looked like he was getting some swelling. Something wasn't right. I'm telling this to the nurse. So they said we're thinking about putting him into the ICU. Then maybe about 15 minutes after she said that, she goes, instead of putting him to ICU, we're going to move him next to our desk. So in other words, there's a series of pediatric rooms, treatment rooms, hospital rooms in the pediatric ward. And he was down maybe towards the end, so they moved him right across from the nurse's station. But still, across from the nurse's station is not the ICU. So I thought, oh, God, so that way they're closer, so they come in. I'm thinking to myself, everything's going to be okay.
So we got a note from Mr. Lubofsky about next steps and what he's been doing in his fight for justice for his son or over his son's death. And this is what the note says. This is the related case to Asher and the deals with the conflict of the medical malpractice arbitration law that I discussed with you. As you know, I found out while fighting for justice for Asher that the hospital falls under a Protective Government Claims Act that at the max will pay out $100,000 to $400,000 in cases of malpractice. That is another terrible story. They have never responded to the claim. For the sake of this info, I will not focus on GMH, just SDA and private practice and clinics. Save that GMH for later. I also found out that on Guam, doctors and clinics outside of GMH are protected by an arbitration law. This discriminatory policy requires all cases of malpractice to go through arbitration, as you are not entitled to due process otherwise. Please read my letter to the 15 senators that I sent to them explaining the pitfalls associated with this protectionist policy. I sent that letter attached to all our senators. 11 did not respond at all, and only Senator Moylan and Therese Terlahi met with me. I got emails only from Senator Pito Terlahi and Senator Will Castro. I felt that none of them wanted to take this issue on to protect Guam people from bad doctors and to prevent Guam taxpayers through medical care or education for paying for doctors' mistakes. And then he says, please note the staff at Senator Moylan's office, whose name I just forgot and used to work for the last governor, told me that they were aware of many doctors on Guam with malpractice histories that were practicing as they were licensed by the board. She may be a good person to talk to. She seemed concerned. She is maybe the chief of staff. So as an example of a child or adult has severe injury or death, parents must have $30,000 or more to proceed to get any help. The figures change with damages. In our case, I heard it may be as much as $60,000, and our filing fee is around $10,000 to just start the process. No one can go to court against any doctor in Guam or clinic unless they do arbitration first. No money in your pocket, no court, doctor walks, taxpayers pay for any perpetual medical problems, etc. This is discriminatory, and you can see by the 2 attached court filings that it's again being challenged. Who pays for any child's health needs or even special education if part of the injury? We, the taxpayers, pay as the doctors just walk away. The kicker in this is that the Guam Medical Licensing Board, with Dr. Berg, who chairs it, has stated, I was at their meeting in February, that they will license any doctor who applies for licensing on Guam with only minimal qualifications required. They have also licensed many who have histories of malpractice in other places as well. Guam is known by doctors who cannot work in other places due to licensing issues and malpractice insurance, etc., as the place to come to as easy to get licensed. We are known as a medical dumping ground, easy to get a job by these unfit doctors. So here we are, we have our protectors, the licensing board for doctors, taking any doctor, no matter what they have in their background, who meets only minimal requirements to work on Guam. Then they and the Guam Doctors Society and others, etc., go to our senators, lobby them, maybe with donations, 30 years ago, I believe, and get them to pass the Guam medical malpractice arbitration laws. What he's talking about basically is political and corporate corruption melding. They, in turn, by doing that, lowered their malpractice insurance to perhaps the lowest in the country, which again attracts the misfit doctors. They have set up protection for themselves as they know most people on Guam cannot afford arbitration and will be forced into a small settlement and will not proceed ahead, leaving taxpayers responsible for the damage the misfit doctor caused. I do wonder why currently the licensing board is so laxed, but then I looked at the conflict of interest. As an example, Dr. Berg, who chairs it, directly benefits from new doctors who come to Guam and do you not think that those new doctors will refer their patients to Dr. Berg to keep him happy and as a payback for licensing? So where do people on Guam go to raise complaints against doctors if they have no money for arbitration? With Asher, I filed a complaint with the Medical Licensing Board against Dr. Miyagi. That was 5 months ago, and they are still just sitting on it. It's a big conflict of interest, as that same board who licenses these incompetent doctors then had to hear complaints against them, and it brings attention to the board that they should not have licensed them in the first place. And the same members of the board are also the same group that made the arbitration laws that you cannot afford or are near impossible unless you are rich, and these doctors benefit directly from it. As an example, how can Dr. Berg decide on a complaint with SDA against Dr. Miyagi? Dr. Berg makes big bucks from SDA and has also given legal testimony for SDA in the past. Do we think for one moment he would decide for Asher against his wallet, or that this is a conflict of interest that he should see and recuse himself? We also filed a complaint against Ethan Snyder with the Allied Board. Again, 5 months ago, and they have done nothing with it. The last meeting, they decided to wait until June to investigate. They do not care and clearly are conflicted as well. Back to arbitration, people of Guam, unless rich, have no recourse to ever get to court unless they go through arbitration with the stated expenses. Attached is the Superior Court case of Baby Faith. No, sorry, it's not. I read that wrong. Our senators do not want to protect us. Our doctors make money by not protecting us, so we have to do it ourselves through the media and self-advocating. The average person on Guam knows nothing of this nightmare until they are face to face with it. Then there's some information here that I'm not going to read because I don't want to get people in trouble. Well, there might be legal issues. My family is totally destroyed, and there is no such thing as recovery from something like this. Miyagi and Snyder need to give up their licenses and leave Guam before someone else is hurt or killed. Okay, please let me know that you received this. Thanks, David Lubofsky. Can we go to my screen? I want to show people the picture of Asher Dean Lubofsky. This is Mr. David Lubofsky's 5-year-old son, Asher Dean, who died last October 31st after spending 12 hours at GMH without seeing any doctor, though on his medical chart, it showed that before he was admitted to the pediatrics ward, a doctor did note that he was sepsis, yet wasn't seen by a doctor for 12 hours until he coded around 7 a.m. October 31st. It's such a sad thing, such a sad thing. The next thing, so those are our 3 big stories for the night. I do want to make a special shout out to Superior Court of Guam presiding judge Alberto Lamarena, who seems to be very much in tune with what's going on in our society. So there was a sentencing for a guy convicted of second-degree criminal sexual misconduct. His name is Robert Tyrone Diaz Rages. And there were pleas from Mr. Rages' girlfriend and Mr. Rages himself to allow him to continue raising his family of young children. And it was a case of date rape. And the woman who was involved in this, or the victim, asked the prosecutor on her behalf asked that Mr. Rages not be granted any leniency in his sentencing, and so the judge didn't give him any leniency, sentenced him to 8 years, and said, I think I need to send a message This is the direct quote. I think I need to send a message, is what he said. So Judge Alberto Lamarena, message heard. Great job to you for taking the side of this community in a time when just so much is happening against women and children that we have to talk about this every single day. It affects us. You know, this is what we're chasing down every day, and it's become part of our lives. And you know, we grieve alongside the victims and the survivors in all of this. It's terrible. And the last thing, since this is Sunday, since it's the weekend, there was a full moon last night, and I used to help out with like the cleansing of you know, like important things in the house and all that stuff. Whenever there was a full moon, I used to like I don't know how to do that stuff, but like I would help. I would like bring the stuff outside, and so it was fun. You know, it was a nice experience. And what I know about why I know that last night was the full moon was because our business partner Carlos, he came into the office and he was like, "Did you guys see the moon?" And I thought he was gonna say something lesbian, like, you know, let's go and stare at the moon. But he was like, "Did you guys see the moon? Oh, man, there's so many crabs outside." And all I could thinking was, well, did Bobby Ho Atoigwe spread her legs? Because there's all these crabs outside. And then I was like, I'm gonna replay the Bobby Ho files. So straight from our news archives, well, our Trash Talk archives, here's me talking about Bobby Ho Cruz, who is an employee at Slocum. Let's go to my screen where, and this was after walking in Tumon one night, and yes, the shirt I'm wearing that night is the same shirt that I was wearing yesterday. It's been washed. This was back on January, or like March 28th, I think. But I wanted to leave you guys with this because it's just super, super fucking funny. Then we'll end the cast. I got some good shit tonight from Georgine Tysino's page. Now I suppose this late night stuff should be dedicated to like the Trash Talk files. You know, like it doesn't have to do with like island politics or like, you know, Joanne Brown giving birth at SeaWorld or anything like that. But just straight up fucking trash from trashy ass hoes. I have to thank my good friend Georgine Tysino for putting one on blast on Facebook for the whole fucking world to see. Because I'll tell you, if more of us were honest about this kind of shit, hoes would be just so fucking ashamed to be hoes. They wouldn't do their shit. You know, some trashy ass stuff out there about like, I stole your man. Shut the fuck up, ho. That is some trashy shit. So we're gonna up the trash level, okay? And we're gonna expose all this shit. And thank you, Georgine, for exposing this shit because holy shit, this is good. 4 hours ago on Georgine Tysino's page, she posts something that Bobby Jo Atoigwe is her name on Facebook. This is Bobby Ho Cruz. And if you're just catching up, Bobby Ho and Georgine were mullies. And then, like, apparently for years, Bobby Ho was sleeping with Georgine's then boyfriend, Larry, or husband, Larry. And Bobby Ho was being fake to Georgine the whole time. And so it was sort of stunning to her. And, you know, Georgine's not, like, the kind of person to be cheated on. You know, she's like, she would probably be the cheater first. But in a classy way, you know, like, and then she'll tell you to your face. She'll like say something like, I don't even want to be with you anymore because you have a small fucking dick and I've been fucking your brother or something like that, you know? But she won't put it on blast on Facebook, but Bobby Ho did. And Bobby Ho started like bragging about it all over Facebook. So Georgine did what us class of 98 Notre Dame bitches do and we take revenge, right? Because we're just not gonna let someone get away with that shit. So Bobby Ho wrote 5 hours ago, see, the world today will always be one-sided. Everyone will always listen to one side and not hear the other. Really, bitch. Since this whole chaos, K-A-O-S, started, I wasn't the only one that messed up. Patrick has fucked up in the past. That Patrick is her ex-husband. He's cheated with a few people and I didn't throw him under the bus. Oh, this shit gets like pretty real. He molested someone that I knew, and when I tried to leave him, he threatened to hang himself in front of my 15-year-old at the time. Holy shit, that's dirty fucking laundry. So with that, I was stuck and torn. Then his brother did the same to my... I'm not gonna read that part because that's just way too trashy. Like, that shouldn't be revealed on social media. On top of it all, no, I can't read that. If you want, you can read it on her own page, Bobby Jo Otoyi, but I'm not gonna read that out loud. His parents were the ones that begged for us to drop the charges as his dad was on his dying bed. How do you, as women, stay married to a man that has repeated things like this happening within their family? Honest to God? Holy shit, you do need to do a Gimen and Zulus to yourself. This is to include a past with his only sister and Patrick's son doing same shit. Even more of that dirty shit. Then he wants to all listen to Georgine and all her FB bash posts going on. Yes, we do want to listen to Georgine. That bitch is fucking funny. I never home wrecked her home, nor did I take her man. Really, what's that guy doing laying right next to you? Larry was never happy to begin with. Amanda lived with his mom for 3 years because he didn't want to move with her. No, I don't think that's why a man lives with his mom for 3 years. That ain't the fucking reason. He stuck around because of the safety of his kids, not because he cared for her, but he cared for his kids. And to think this is all me, she wrecked his home with his ex-girlfriend, Oma. Use the kids as bonds just so Larry and Oma can split up. So really everyone needs to hear both sides of the story because there's not only one to tell. This came from his mouth on things that I know about her. I won't get into details on more that I shouldn't because me, I mind my business. I don't. I wake up every day, go to TOO work, and hold on, let me go to the next one. Hustle to make that money for daughter's name so we can live comfortably. I don't pretend to be mommy of the year because I've always been about my kids. I just love it when people say shit like, you know, I'm a humble person, so I would never say, shut the fuck up. And now that my girls are older, the only one that matters to me is names of children, and I won't repeat that. So all this is old news that is going to be a year old. If you claim to be over him, then why do you continue to bash him and call me names like Bobby Ho Cruz? Does it matter you a better person? Oh, I'm sorry. Does it make you a better person? We all have our skeletons, and we're all once hoes back in the day, right? I would have to agree. No one is perfect. Yeah. For me, you can call me a hoe all you want because I'll wear that crown proudly. There she is, Miss Homerica. With a smile, at least I know what I did and will take the fault for my wrongdoings. I don't regret where I'm at or who I'm with. Our life still goes on and we make it happen for name of child. You talk about me and Larry, yet you're always with Patrick and you don't see me crying about it. Poor Patrick. Is this all double standard shit now? Come on, you claim you're so over it, but it kills you because he left you for where he's at now. Ooh, girl, those are fighting words. Holy shit. Holy shit. Okay, Georgine is gonna kick your ass. The relationship, again, between you and Larry has nothing to do with me. You were very abusive, verbally, mentally, and physically. Okay, honestly, I can see Georgine being that. That's one girl you don't fuck with. So this is not just a one-sided part where we come for drama. I'm not here for anyone's petty comments, but for me to defend myself and stand up for myself. Oh, honey, you didn't have to make an invitation for there to be petty comments. Don't worry, I invited myself. I am not embarrassed of what I did wrong because I know how to carry my own cross, and only God can judge me when it's my turn. Thank you and have a great day, sincerely. And she honestly signed to Bobby Ho. So, now that's not where the funny shit is. You know, you go to these like train wreck posts, right? It's the comments. The comments are where all the funny shit is. Hold on. Carissa Flores, God bless you, Carissa. OMG, she is crazy. I'm sorry she was never a friend, and I'm sorry you had this chick on your team. She's basically telling Georgine, you're fucking dumb, Georgine, for being her friend. Now, Georgine, girl, I've had fucked up friends too. Don't worry. I don't know how to pick them either. Except like my friends now are like awesome. I don't ever want nor care to know her. If she can do this to you, she can't be trusted. That is a motherfucking fact. I don't care about her facts. She is a lowlife for even going for Larry in the first place. Larry, I've never seen you, but you must be fucking ugly. Anyways, hopefully Larry mans up and checks on his kids, but I wouldn't hold your breath. You should probably tell them to get used to him being a memory. That's actually pretty sad. If he really wanted to see his kids and she was a real person, they would both try all this. Proves that she is a mean person, selfish bitch. Clap, clap, clap. That's the ending part of that thing. Then Vanessa Bermudez, haha, with the Slimer from Ghostbusters. And then she's the haha with the rat thing, you know, the open mouth rat and the ha. And I got a lot of ha-has from Vanessa Bermudez. And then Vanessa Bermudez writes, oh my God, girl, I love you too. Stop, ho, you should have taken it to your grave. Now the whole world knows you a liar and a ho. All right, so if you want to see the rest of that, it's like 3 more minutes of me just laughing about people's comments. It's not news. It's not even new. This was like from back in March. I just thought, when I thought about that whole full moon thing and Carlos mentioned the crabs, I was like, oh, Bobby Ho and the crabs. And I was like, we'll have a fun time on Sunday night. That's all we have for tonight, guys. Thank you very much for your time, and we'll be back tomorrow. Good night.